The vampire co-op shooter known as Redfall recently released, and it released two mostly negative reviews on Steam. Alongside this, there's been a lot of negativity around the game because of performance issues, bugs, and many more problems. Now, this didn't stop my friends and I from trying out the game because we wanted to see if the game was actually as bad as people say it is, or if it actually is kind of decent, just in a rough spot. And to make a long story short, yeah, it's rough. Redfall suffers from a lot of issues that I'm not even sure where to begin. It suffers from both technical issues and gameplay issues. On the technical scale, Redfall is simply very unoptimized. Playing on medium graphics alone, I still had quite a few frame drops while playing the game, and this is with an Nvidia 3070 Ti and an i7-12700K, so my PC isn't lacking by any means, and my friends with less powerful systems describe the game as being similar to a slideshow at times. Seriously, just look at this clip of my friend playing the game. This is absolutely atrocious performance. Now, if that wasn't bad enough, the co-op for the game, which is one of Redfall's biggest attractions, is extremely buggy. One particular bug that my friend had was that guns simply wouldn't spawn for them, and because your ability to melee and kinda do anything is tied to having a gun in the first place, they simply could not play the game. It took us multiple restarts before they finally managed to get into a save where they didn't have this bug and we can actually continue our run. It took us nearly 30 minutes just to try and get a run going because we had to keep restarting over and over and over again. Continuing on the co-op, for some odd reason you can't even invite people mid-game as well. The only way to play with people is to make a lobby before starting your run, which is annoying. But it wouldn't be as bad except for the fact that the game is also prone to crashing. And what happens when someone crashes, you may ask? Simple. You have to go back to the main menu, invite everyone all over again, and then you can continue playing. And having to do that multiple times just gets extremely annoying. These were just some of the problems that we face as PC players, and while I don't have a console to verify for myself, I've seen plenty of console streamers also having troubles running the game, and Redfall for some odd reason is locked at 30 FPS on console, which in this day and age is just absolutely ridiculous. Aside from these issues, there's also some really awkward animation bugs, where sometimes there's just no animation whatsoever for doing certain things, like for one of the characters' teleporter. All of these issues coupled together really make for a very unfun experience to play, and really breaks any kind of immersion or fun that you may be having. And while many people these days are like, wait for the day 1 patch, wait for the day 2 patch, wait for the day 578 patch, the thing is that we did wait. We didn't play Redfall until 2 or 3 days after it released, and by then it had already gotten a few patches to the game, and even then the game was still extremely buggy. I can't even imagine how bad it was on release day. All these technical issues aside, the game also suffers a lot in regards to its gameplay, so many so that I'm not even sure where to start. The movement in Redfall just doesn't feel right. It feels very floaty, if that makes sense. It doesn't feel like I'm traversing across the map. It feels more like I'm just gliding. Like my character doesn't have any actual weight to them. Like they aren't actually there. I'm just kind of just moving through the medium of the map, but without having any actual presence. This complaint may be minor to some people, but at least for me and some others, it feels very immersion breaking and just kind of a weird overall experience when traversing across the map. The shooting mechanics of Redfall are actually pretty serviceable. They're not too bad, but aiming down sights does feel awkward and clunky, and honestly, I either just hip-fired or just meleeed most of the time because aiming down sights just didn't feel right for some reason. Now, this may sound like I'm throwing, but honestly, it really didn't matter because the enemy AI is just absolutely atrocious. This is probably one of the worst parts about Redfall. We played on Midnight, which is the highest difficulty that you can play in the beginning of the game, and this is basically what the average combat situation looked like. Wait guys, there's enemies right here. Hold on, I know what to do.
It'll also give us a foothold to take back our neighborhoods from these monsters and their goddamn cults. My friends already laid the groundwork in a few places, but as you can imagine,
Hardest difficulty, by the way.
safe yet. If you spot one,
Wait, are they dying to the red mist?
shout on the radio.
Yep. Yep.
Why are they all standing in it then? Okay, oh wait, no, she's...
I'm gonna mark them, guys. Look, I've marked them. Yep. The AI is not very intelligent.
Trust strengthened.
Remember, this is the highest difficulty that you can play in Redfall when you first get the game. Apparently there is one more difficulty higher than Midnight, which you can only get access to by beating the game once, but to be honest, I'm not even sure if I'm even going to play the game again. The regular enemies in Redfall are just plain pathetic, and the vampires would be a terrifying threat if it wasn't for the fact that they're just so stupid. If you really hate the combat mechanics though, then you're in luck, because while Redfall is an open world game, the open world just feels very, very dead, and it's not just because of the vampires. Far too many times we would travel across the map and barely find any enemies at all, whether it was daytime or nighttime. And when we did encounter enemies, it was often a small amount like 6 to 8 enemies, and it wasn't really much of a challenge. The only reason why any combat managed to last more than 5 seconds is because either the enemies were very tanky with the vampires, or we are just screwing around a lot, because honestly just the basic combat itself is just very boring. Before I forget, I should also mention that Redfall is also a looter shooter, but Redfall has committed one of the greatest sins you can commit as a looter shooter, and it's the fact that the loot is boring. Guns you find in Redfall are simply slightly stronger versions of older guns. Higher rarity weapons don't give you anything cool, all they do is give you bonuses like reloading 20% faster or stacking more damage. Other than that, there wasn't really anything going for the loot that Redfall kept throwing at you. It was just a pure number increase, but otherwise, functionally it was just the same weapon as before. The only time I ever got excited by new weapons in Redfall was when we got completely new weapon types like the flare gun or the stake launcher, but even they suffer from the same issues as other weapons in that newer versions of them were just slightly stronger version of them with nothing else to them. While most of my review about this game is negative, I will at least admit that there are some positives here. I like the character design of many of the characters. It's very much Arcane's usual style, which I do appreciate a lot. It's some nice art direction, and also a lot of the characters' abilities were actually pretty interesting, and I thought they were cool, at least on paper. Like my friend's psychic umbrella that could be used to block damage and then they could shoot it back at the enemies, or the teleporter pad that we used to go ahead and gain high ground and traverse across the city, though for some odd reason there is no animation when using them, you just kind of disappeared. But despite my appreciation for some of the character abilities in the game, they were just a drop in the bucket in an otherwise unfulfilling game that left me very unsatisfied when playing it. The game just lacked far too many things to draw me into the game, which is crazy because the game is well over 100 gigabytes. To summarize, Redfall is simply an unoptimized and buggy game, and if that alone wasn't bad enough, it suffers a lot from a barren open world, boring lewd, unresponsive combat, and movement. I do think that somewhere here there is a potential for a good game, and I would love to see if Redfall can make a comeback and become a game that we actually feel is worth our time, but I just don't see that happening anytime soon. Not at least for another year's worth of development at least. Redfall right now is not worth the $70 price tag. At the moment, it barely feels like it's worth even $30. It feels like a $20 to $30 indie game, but instead it's a $70 game developed by Arcane Austin, the people behind 2017's Prey and Deathloop, and it's also published by Bethesda. Yeah, I see the issue now. Hey everyone, thanks for watching the video. I was super disappointed to see the state of Redfall released in, but what I'm not disappointed in is Xbox Game Pass. Yeah, this is a sponsored video. Xbox Game Pass is a subscription-based service that allows you to play hundreds of games, with new games being released onto its catalog every month. Honestly, the biggest reason why I love using Xbox Game Pass is because it lets me test out a lot of these new releases and see if I actually like the game or not and if it's worth my time or not, such as Redfall. So instead of spending $70 to go ahead and buy Redfall or more depending on your region, I just went ahead and downloaded it from Xbox Game Pass, tried it out, and was like, yeah, no. I'm uninstalling this now. Seriously, being able to play something like Redfall and learn that you don't like it while having to shell out the money for it is honestly so good. And also, you can play a lot of pretty decent games or even great games like State of Decay 2 or Hi-Fi Rush. If you click the referral link in the description below, it'll also help out the channel as well. And if you want to see more gameplay, game reviews, whatever else, be sure to subscribe to the channel as well. And while I don't see myself playing Redfall again anytime soon, at least not without like a year or two worth of development and improvement into the game, and even then I'm not even really that sure, I'll still probably take this one stream I had for Redfall and turn it into a video or something, and hopefully that will come out later this week or next week, who knows. Anyways, I don't really know how to end this, so I guess take this outro music, I suppose. Bye.